Moving to question and answer part of the hearing, I will begin the questioning by recognizing myself for 5 minutes. So I have to tell you that I have a large rural district with lots of mountains. So I texted while we were talking, because some folks don't understand the problem, I don't think. I texted my district director, Josh Hess, who played football for Powerhouse Richlands High School in Richlands, Virginia, and said, what was the furthest game you went to? In district, he went to Carroll County, Hillsville. It's 101 miles one way. Now, it is true we've built tunnels to get through 2 of the mountains, so while there are still a lot of hills, the biggest of the mountains you can get around without too much trouble. But based on my research, and you tell me if there's something new out there, these electric school buses don't get from somewhere between 100 to 200 miles, depending on which make and which battery level you're at. And, of course, I already mentioned in my opening the cost of the replacement batteries. So you might not get back from the game if you take an electric school bus from Richlands to Hillsville. By the way, all of that's in the 9th Congressional District. And he told me also that the furthest they went when he got into the playoffs, they went to Brookville, which is a few miles outside of the district, but not more than about 15 minutes outside of the district at most. And that's 195 miles. You might get there, but you might not get back. So is this really practical for schools to have an all-electric fleet?
Well, thank you for the question. The IIJA obviously expresses a intent of Congress that half that funding will go to electric school buses. The other half will go to clean school buses.
But the data indicates, at least in the first tranche of spending, it's going to be about 95% electric. Isn't that accurate?
Yes, that's right. And that's why we've undertaken our evaluation to understand how the selection process ended up in such an imbalance of technologies. My understanding at this juncture is that the EPA has exercised its discretion or its decision-making power under the criteria for that second half to determine that the zero-emission buses meet the definition of clean school bus. It is permitted under the statute, as I understand it, in lieu of the alternative fuel. And so, sir, as I was saying, this is what our evaluation is really going to start looking at, is what was the process that the EPA went through to determine how they were going to fund the buses.
Because natural gas might work in my district. It might. I don't know. We'll see. All right. There's several other problematic aspects of the program. For example, if a school district does not have any 2010 or older diesel buses to replace, it may replace a 2011 or newer bus by selling it. According to the EPA, quote, income from the sale of the old bus will not impact the rebate amount, end quote. So let me understand this. The EPA is paying the school districts to upgrade buses that are not even a decade old, and then if the school district sells it, they get to pocket the profit or the cash. Is that accurate?
That's my understanding as well. And as I had mentioned, our investigators are looking at all of the possible fraud vulnerabilities. This is the one I think we call the school bus goes round and round. And our concern would be that school buses get passed from one district to the next in order to justify a replacement for the government-funded replacement. And so these are the sorts of things that we will be looking at. We will help the agency look at. I want to be clear. I understand that the agency has some follow-up, that's conducting follow-up. The agency has taken some of the most advanced systems yet that they've employed in administering the rebates, but there's still a lot of work to make sure that these fraud vulnerabilities are not taken advantage of.
Yeah, because it seems like that, some flatland district where the school bus might work for, getting around most of the area and doing stuff. And I recognize in the flatland area it might work. In an area where you've got a moderate temperature, this may very well be effective. But they can then sell their diesel buses to my district where the electric bus just probably ain't going to function very well. All right. In your testimony, you also expressed concern with the so-called destruction protocol that school districts are supposed to utilize when scrapping, selling, or donating old buses, so they couldn't necessarily sell it to my district. How is the EPA currently planning to minimize risks such as recipients selling or keeping buses that are supposed to be destroyed?
So my understanding is, as part of the process, and frankly, with respect to the rebates, is our view that there are very few touch points in the process. One of those touch points is completing a scrapping certification. That includes an identification of the bus by VIN and pictures of the engine receiving, sort of being put to rest, if you will. And the axle and the chassis, the back chassis being separated. So that's the extent to which there is verification that the scrapping protocol has occurred. We're not sure that that's robust enough. Like I said, we're still really looking into that part on an investigatory side.
Well, and I've got to tell you, for a lot of my districts that are short on cash and really I represent a economically stressed region of the country, I'm not so sure selling them to those school districts at a discount isn't a better plan than scrapping them. But that being said, I yield back.